A good historic announcement for the City of Toronto. I'm Rob Flack. I'm the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and MPP for Elgin, Middlesex, London and Southwestern Ontario. It's a pleasure to be here alongside Mayor Chow and is an incredible advocate for this great city. And my colleague, my good friend, Minister Sarkaria, all the way from Brampton, who's working hard every day to keep Ontario moving. I drove into the Gardiner here yesterday, and from London, we came from London. As I came in, I realized why what we're announcing today is so important, because we hit gridlock. And as I sat on the Gardiner, moved off to the lakeshore with some accidents, I looked up and I could see transit, I could see housing, condos, everything, and I thought, boy, oh boy, this is exactly what Toronto needs to keep Toronto moving and to get people off the roads and using public transportation. So I think everyone here can appreciate just how vibrant the City of Toronto is. It's the largest city in the country with an economic engine that is the envy of the world and unique and varied cultural heritage. The reality is reflected in the population growth we have seen over the years. Over the past year alone, and I know Mayor Chow will say it as well, we've seen nearly 270,000 people arrive to this city. We are now a province of 16 million people and a country of 41 million people. The Premier likes to tease me that when I was in high school, I say the population was just 7 or 8 million people. He'll say that that was back in the 30s. Honest to goodness, folks, that isn't true. But from the late 70s till now, we've really seen population growth in this province, historic population growth. And with that population growth, housing starts, we all know, have not kept pace. As a result, costs have risen to the point where families, first-time homebuyers, and seniors are being priced out of the market. This is a story all too common right across Ontario, and Toronto is no exception. And that brings me to our announcement today. We've been working hard with Mayor Chow and her team to implement our shared vision to not only build more housing in the city, but to build it where it makes most sense and where people want to live. And where does it make the most sense? In areas, number one, where there is a demand for more housing. Number two, in areas where people can get quickly out the door and get moving, well connected with the rest of the city and not by car. In Toronto, these areas are close to transit stations, like here. That is why today I am here with Mayor Chow and Minister Sarkaria to announce 6 changes to Toronto's official plan that will unlock 1.5 million new homes near transit by increasing density and height allowances over the next number of decades. Originally, their official plan called for 500,000 new homes, and with these amendments, Toronto can now achieve triple that amount to 1.5 million new homes in the decades ahead. Before I go further, I want to thank Mayor Chow for her leadership in this partnership, in this successful partnership. In fact, just this last June, Premier Ford and I joined Mayor Chow at City Hall to present Toronto's second Building Faster Fund check. I believe, Mayor, it is about a little over $180 million in the last 2 years. We were more than happy to answer Toronto's call to help build stronger communities that they desire in their city. Why? Because we recognize how impactful it will be for countless families, first-time homebuyers, and seniors who call Toronto home, or want to call it home. Together, we are enabling more people to work and live and thrive in the same place, and getting people off the road and encouraging the use of public transit to reduce gridlock. Through these amendments, more people will be ideally situated so they can leverage our extensive and ever-improving public transit systems rather than relying on gridlocked streets. I drove up here today from our office at 777 Bay, and boy, oh boy, we experienced it firsthand. This, in turn, will save people time so they can grow their careers, focus on their well-being and lifestyle, and spend time with their loved ones. Today's announcement is part of our plan to protect Ontario by reducing gridlock, supporting economic growth, and keeping workers on the job. And it is one more tool in our toolbox to make the dream of home ownership more attainable, complementing actions like our Bill 17. We are creating the conditions to bring costs down. Toronto always has been and always will be a dynamic and prosperous place to live, work, and raise a family. Thanks to the close collaboration between our government and the City of Toronto, we are ensuring that this remains the case. Thank you very much, everybody. I would now like to turn the podium over to Mayor Chow. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's great to be here today with Minister Flack and Minister Sarkaria and our local ward councillor, James Pasternak. Our close working relationship means that we can get more done. Together, we are working hard to build more affordable homes and get Toronto moving. Toronto is growing. Last year alone, our city added 270,000 people. They're coming to our city, and we welcome them. But we're also facing a housing crisis. The average cost of rent have gone up by more than $1,000 in just the past 10 years to an average of $2,350 per month. Housing is the biggest expense every month, and the majority of Torontonians are struggling. 1 in 10 are saying that they are relying on food banks. They're having a hard time. Young people starting a family are considering leaving the city because they can't find an affordable place to live. Just early this week, I was visiting the 911 call center, and we're hiring more call center workers. But the police were saying to me that we trained them, they work very well, and then when they start a new family, they have to have more space, and they're starting to look for other spaces outside the city. We need to keep people in Toronto by building more housing. Today's zoning approval announcement will transform this city. It will unlock 1.5 million new homes. We are cutting red tapes so that we can build a lot more housing within walking distance of all subway and GO stations all along the transit corridor. Plus, now those are the existing ones, like this one. Plus, more homes can be built around the new Ontario Line subway stations, the Eglinton Crosstown and the Finch LRTs, and maybe even the Scarborough and the Waterfront East LRT. Think about it. Anywhere there's amazing transit, you get a lot more housing, because new residents can take the public transit. They don't need to drive. They can just walk easily to a subway or GO station. Life gets more affordable when we don't need to pay for gasoline or parking. Or maybe we don't even need a car if the subway is so close by, right where you live. For those driving, that means there's less congestion and less gridlock. Building more homes near transit just makes common sense. The former mayor submitted zoning plans around Transit Hub to the province 5 years ago, but they were not at all ambitious. It's only said 500,000 units. That's not enough. The Premier, his minister, and I have dramatically increased the number of homes we can build. It's 3 times more homes and far more ambitious. Over 1.5 million homes will be built in areas around transit. 53,000 of them will be affordable and geared to a person's income. More homes will help Toronto attract nurses, paramedics, artists, engineers, entrepreneurs, police officers, paramedics that our city needs. I will continue working with the province to build housing that everyone can afford. Now, making zoning changes is one thing, but getting individual building projects approved is another matter. Under the previous mayor, getting the city's approval used to take years. In fact, it was embarrassingly the slowest, one of the slowest cities in North America to get these approvals. In 2025, it is now 80% faster because we have cut red tape, bring together the city's development review team in one place, one-stop shop, one person in charge rather than 8, and we are seeing the result. We have made building homes more affordable by cutting over $300 million in development charges, property tax, and other fees to build 8,000 purpose-built homes, 20% of which are affordable. And across all our city programs and incentives, we are delivering 25,000 new homes. Shuffle is hitting the ground. And I want to thank Minister Flack and Minister Sarkaria for their continued partnership and Premier Ford for his leadership. Together, we are unlocking more affordable homes, reducing gridlock, and building for the future. With that, I will now invite Minister Sarkaria to the podium. Just also want to take this opportunity to congratulate him. Baby number 3 arrived a few weeks ago. Here you are, Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm Prabmeet Sarkaria, Ontario's Minister of Transportation. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government understands the need to protect Ontario jobs. That's why I wrote to Mayor Chow urging the city to use a made-in-Ontario approach for the Line 2 subway cars. And I'm pleased to share that today the TTC is moving forward with a single-source contract with Alstom Transport Canada in Thunder Bay. I want to take an opportunity to thank Mayor Chow for her leadership on this, an opportunity right here in Toronto to ensure that we are supporting good-paying jobs in Thunder Bay, over $2 billion of investment going and staying in Ontario rather than going to Mexico or an Asian country. This is about supporting Ontario, prioritizing Ontario manufacturers by ensuring that those Line 2 trains are made in Ontario by Ontario workers. We're talking about 55 new state-of-the-art trains to replace the aging fleet on Line 2, and with 15 trains fully funded by the province for our priority transit projects like the Scarborough Subway Extension and the Yonge North Subway Extension. This project will create thousands of good-paying jobs for Ontarians and protect our critical domestic manufacturing industry while we invest $70 billion into the largest subway expansion in Canadian history. We're protecting Ontario by investing in safe, reliable transit that keeps people moving. When we build transit in Ontario that we need, we're not just buying trains. We're protecting Ontario workers and our economy while investing in a made-in-Ontario transportation system. With that, thank you very much, and I will now turn it back over to Minister Flack.
Thank you, Minister. And Mayor?
We will now go to media questions. Reporters, please line up the mic behind me. Please state your name and outlet. It'll be one question, one follow-up. First reporter.
Hi, my name is Beth McDonnell with CTV News. This question is for the mayor. Mayor, the Premier is mandating civil servants back to work full-time. Brampton looks like it's also going to follow suit now as well. What is your opinion about sending City of Toronto staff back to work in person full-time? Do you support this? Yes, no, why?
Well, in fact, the City of Toronto workers are mostly at work everywhere. Your TDC drivers, your police, fire, paramedics, crisis intervention workers, your childcare worker, parks and recreation workers, the lifeguards, you name it. People that pick up your garbage, people that fix your road, people that deal with the potholes, people that make sure your water is clean. Everyone is back to work already. Now, there are some of the senior administrators and perhaps lawyers will examine that, but majority of it really we already have most of our workers at work all the time because we deliver essential services.
For those who do work behind a desk and don't do a physical job in the field, I'm not sure if you know how many of those there are, but given that this would be potentially a number going back still in the largest city, are you concerned about the impact of traffic, of all these workers going back to work in person, all the traffic that could be created from all these people going back?
We'll examine it, and maybe if we can get this housing built faster through, build more subway stations. The subway stations already, a lot of them are being built, but if we can build more housing, then people don't have to drive as far to get to work. But I'll get the numbers for you if you're interested. I don't think it's a huge number.
QP briefing. So question is for the minister, but I would like to hear from the mayor on it as well. So the latest data from CMHC shows that at the current pace, Ontario would fall short by roughly 708,000 homes over the 9 years from 2023 to 2031. So this is more than half of the entire 1.5 million homes by 2031 pledge. And this is including the new categories like the long-term care beds and all of that. So at this point, would you consider reviewing this goal of 1.5 million homes by 2031 to a more realistic figure? And also on today's announcement, and that's where I want to hear from the mayor as well. So these MTSAs were sent to the province a long time ago. So why the province took so long to say yes to that?
Well, let's start off with housing. We're in the midst of a housing crisis. We all know this. There's no question about it. Times have changed. Since this goal was set, Trump has arrived on the scene, and we have got uncertainty in Canada, throughout on Canada, in Ontario. So that is why we are waiting patiently to hear from the federal government and their budget about the HST, about what they're going to do to help facilitate housing. That being said, in the meantime, we have introduced bills like Bill 17 that I think create the conditions. Again, governments don't build houses. Mayor Chow, her team, our team in the government, provincially and federally, we don't build the houses. We create the conditions. And when there's uncertainty, so people are waiting to hear what the federal government's going to do on the HST. They're waiting to hear what's going to happen to interest rates because they need to come down, listen to Premier Ford. He's meeting with the Prime Minister on Monday to talk about that very subject. So we're focused. I'm not worried about 2031 right now. I'm worried about 25 and 26 to get shovels in the ground faster, and announcements like today really work well to get that done. And I'll answer real quick before I give it to the mayor. If you're going to do it right the first time. We didn't get it right back then, and it's been good collaboration together. And we've got an announcement today. Again, we've tripled the amount of housing that can be built near transit stations, and it's a good news story for Toronto. It's a good news story for Ontario, but I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. 500,000 units is just not big enough, because if you think about the density that we need, think about the number of housing we need. It makes no sense to have a subway station right there. You can just get out of your apartment, your house, walk to the station, and yeah, that's why we said 1.5 million. Now, this proposal was submitted 5 years ago. I came on and looked at it. 3 years have passed by that time. And I said, wait a second, 500,000, not good enough. So Premier Ford and I, together with the ministers, worked hard. Our staff worked hard to say, no, we need to be far more ambitious. There is a housing crisis. We need to build. We need to build a lot more, which is why 1.5 million homes. These zoning changes means, as of right, you don't have to apply for an Ontario plan amendment. My God, that's complicated. Doing an OPA, it takes a long time. You don't have to apply for zoning changes. You can just do it. Okay? So number one, making it simpler, cutting red tape. Number two, financially these days, because of the inflation, there's still left over, the interest rate's a bit high, and the cost of building is a bit high. We're very thankful the federal government has invested in money for modular housing. Minister Flack and I really believe in modular housing. You probably see him nodding. And yes, we want to build it fast. We want to build it in a way that's more affordable, which is why last November, almost a year, the City of Toronto said, we'll do a pilot. We will cut 100% of the development charges. No money. You don't have to pay the city any money on development charges. Not 5%, not 50%, 100% exemption. And then we said, okay, property tax is high. We will reduce it by 15%. We are exempting all the fees. Come build. Within 1 month, within 1 month, 77 applications came in, almost 30,000 units of housing. But we can, Old City of Toronto don't have a huge amount of money. We can only afford 8,000. So together with Minister Flack, we've been waiting for the federal government to say, because they are also saying that they want to help with lowering the cost of building. So hopefully in their announcement, whenever, hopefully this year, that together all three levels of government will make it more affordable for the home builders to build. And that would be the solution, and can't wait for that to happen.
Thank you. Just quickly for the minister as well, if I can just have, why did it take so long to get these MTSAs approved? Because I think the first time this was brought up to the city was like over 3 years ago, so just why it took so long. And then I understand you sent a letter to the federal housing minister, and just want to know if you mentioned to him anything about waiving the HST fully, and whether you were considering anything else to boost housing construction, like, for example, legislation for the municipalities to how they handle their DCs, development charges.
Okay, so first of all, as I said earlier, and as Mayor Chow, I think very well articulated, this took some time. We were not happy with the original goal of 500,000, so we brought it back together and we talked about it in detail. And again, it took maybe a little longer than we wanted, Mayor, but at the end of the day, we got it done, and we've got 1.5 million on the books. With respect to Minister Robertson, I've talked to him regularly. I've met with him in New Brunswick. I'm going to be meeting with him in September when we go to Vancouver to work on a housing summit, a housing action plan. With respect to what I've communicated, all the things that you mentioned in your preface to the question, we've certainly talked about. And like the mayor, I'm patiently waiting for the fall economic statement or the fall budget to make sure that they are included in that budget. And as you know, Premier Ford is meeting with the Prime Minister on Monday to talk about these issues. I'll be meeting with Minister Robertson in September, so we've got a full court press on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Megan King for Global News. First question for the mayor. When it comes to these TTC trains and the sole source contract, just wondering, when you were assessing the feasibility of this, what were those deciding factors?
From day one, I support building it in Ontario. Okay? And in fact, I remember the press conference, Minister Sarkaria and I, and Minister, at that time, the Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland. All of us said, let's build it in Thunder Bay, except the administrative piece that the federal government's contract said, the funding to us said that it has to be tendered. So TTC went and tendered it. And then they went into this whole process. We said, wait, hold on. It's taking too long. And why wouldn't we build it in Ontario? It took us a bit of time to unwind that tendering process. Finally, TTC said, okay, now, TTC is a commission, is standalone. And they finally said, okay, I sent in a letter, was very clear, supported, of course, Minister Sarkaria's letter and Minister Gregor Robertson's letter, because he's the head of infrastructure, Minister of Infrastructure. So together, three levels of government is now aligned. TTC finally said yes. So we are proceeding full steam ahead.
For the Minister of Transportation, when we look at this project, can you speak a little more to how we're going to ensure that Ontarians are getting the best deal financially?
No, absolutely. I think first and foremost, as Mayor Chow said, and I want to thank her for her leadership on this as well, it's especially during this time, it's so important for us to stand up for Ontario workers and Ontario jobs. There was only one place in Canada where these trains could be built. We knew that. That was in Thunder Bay. That plant has a great record for us on, for example, we just saw the GO train, the bi-level refurbishments. They've built many of the TTC streetcars that we've seen in the past. But ultimately, there are going to be measures in place that the TTC, as well as all funding partners, will look to see independent cost estimates to ensure the integrity of that. And I believe that will ensure that we move forward in a way that respects the taxpayer. But ultimately, when we have a $2 billion+ contract, at a moment like today, we want to see those jobs. We want to see the spin-off of that to happen right here in Ontario. And I think it's a great story to see, the largest transit operator, one of the largest transit operators in this country, making a concerted effort to go local, to support local jobs, and to support Ontario's economy by ensuring that this project stays in Ontario. So as Premier Ford has championed from day one, we're all in this together to fight against these tariffs, and this is one way to do that.
Minister, don't go away. I've got a question for you. Sean Jeffords, CBC News. Minister Sarkaria, a question also about Alstrom and the deal to sole source this contract. Why is it important, outside of the fact that these are Canadian jobs that are in play here, that this work be done in Thunder Bay? And just to be clear, is the province backstopping the city if there are cost overruns because this is now a sole source deal?
To the latter part of that, absolutely. We'll be working, and we've let Mayor Chow and her team know that we will be there as a strong partner. We expect the federal government to be there as a strong partner as well as we move towards this in a collective manner. Now, I think when we look at it from a broader context, we are building and we have one of the largest public transit expansions. Contracts like this also ensure the continuity of a plant in Thunder Bay for those workers. I think they've developed a very unique set of skills in building, whether it's transit cars, whether it's doing refurbishments of bi-level GO trains. I think there's generally a great expertise that has been built in Thunder Bay. And for us to continue to expand upon that, ensure that there's going to be work for the next 10+ years just with this one contract, I think it gives the transit networks across not only Ontario and across Canada certainty that we have the skill sets in Ontario. It sends a strong message that we're serious about building transit, we're serious about the ecosystem around transit, and we're getting our system up to being a world-class public transit across the world. We've got $70 billion worth of projects just on public transit happening right here in Ontario, a majority of those in a city like Toronto. So we believe in doing whatever we can to support that locally. And it's not just going to be Thunder Bay. The spin-off of the parts and the equipment that is used to make those trains will also primarily be done right here in Ontario. So this is a big announcement, a big win for Toronto, a big win for Ontario in general, and especially the workers in Thunder Bay who rely on these contracts and good-paying jobs.
A question for Minister Flack and Mayor Chow about the announcement today. Minister, the 1.5 million homes, that's a big number, but what actually materially does change today with this announcement when it comes to the financial barriers that are keeping builders from building all kinds of homes, condos? And have you asked Mayor Chow to use her strong mayor powers to get this through City Council? Because this is quite a big change to those numbers, and it needs to be approved by City Council, as I understand it. So, Mayor Chow, if you wouldn't mind answering that too.
No, you talk about your council, then I'll answer after.
Okay. Well, I believe all councillors understand we have a housing crisis. They also understand that building housing right beside a transit hub is a prime location. Like, it meets the NOT test. In fact, I've met with people that's looked at Eglinton. They said, these crosstown LRTs coming, how is it that there's 2-story or 3 or 4-story building? It makes no sense. What a waste. So people have been eagerly waiting for us to do the right thing, to change the official plan. That is what we're doing today. In terms of details, the announcement is the province of Ontario approving the City of Toronto in changing our official plan. Our official plan will allow 1.5 million homes being built around the transit corridor, and that 53,000 of them will be affordable. Not 80% of market, but affordable based on the person's income. That's important, because building homes where people afford is important also. It's not just about building. We need to do both. And your question about what the city councils would do, we don't know yet. The city planning department will take this approval, and then in each of the area would say, well, in here, right by the subway station will be this percentage, and then further off will be lower, etc. All of those details will come later, and then it will be presented to City Council, and City Council will make a decision. Okay, that's the process.
So again, this was a plan. It's the official amendment plan. It's not a funding announcement today, but I think the mayor would agree, and council would agree. Premier Ford and this government has supported the City of Toronto with many transportation and housing initiatives, and will continue to take that into top mind, as it's the largest and fastest growing city in Canada, for sure. Thank you.
Let me just say one more thing. The City of Toronto really appreciate that giant check that we got to build more homes faster. We're putting every penny of it in use. That's why we're getting 25,000 units of housing shuffle getting into the ground. We are extremely, extremely grateful for both the federal and the provincial government. And finally, after 6 years that we've been asking, okay, we finally got it done. The order is going in to build those 55 subway cars right here in Ontario. We've been asking. In fact, 6 years ago, the CEO of TTC is saying, these subways cars are old. It's near the end of their lifespan. If you don't replace them, things will happen. Sure enough, 2023, not these subways, but the Scarborough RT, look what happened. It derailed because it was 10 years past its lifespan. And when you don't replace old infrastructure, they fall apart. It is no longer safe. Thank God people weren't too injured when the Scarborough RT derailed. So we cannot wait any longer. So I am just extremely grateful that the federal and the provincial government started first. Premier Ford and I signed the New Deal in December of 2023, a few months after I was elected. We're very grateful. We then together went to the federal government and said, please join us. And they did. They did. And here we are. So we finally got it done. And I just want to say that I'm very, very grateful for this confidence that the Premier and his minister have in the City of Toronto.
Hi there, Jack Howan from the Trillium. This one's for you, Minister Flack. As the Mayor mentioned, this still has to go through a process at Council. If it gets stalled there or watered down, will the province step in?
Well, define step in. I think that the Mayor and I will be in constant communication. We're going to do everything we can to get it passed. I know she's confident. I know many on Council are confident. And, there's a timeline. We want to see it done. Time is money, as everybody knows. We need to get shovels in the ground faster. And if you, again, read our Bill 17, you'll see that we're reducing the time it takes to get housing built. We're lowering the costs with many initiatives. And this framework, this plan, this official plan amendment for Toronto, I think will obviously get that job done and speed up housing in Ontario. I don't know why any councillor wouldn't approve it, frankly.
As others have mentioned, this isn't exactly a new plan. We reported, I think, 2 years ago that this was incoming, perhaps jumped the gun a little bit there. What were the sticking points, if you and maybe the Mayor want to weigh in as well? What were the sticking points? I know the Premier was talking a couple days ago about how we can build housing without adding density to lower density existing neighborhoods. Was that a speed bump in negotiations?
I wouldn't say necessarily. I think, obviously sometimes these things take a little longer than you'd like. But at the end of the day, I think what we wanted to see was more than 500,000 homes. So we were able to land on a growth number. Again, remember, Toronto has grown by 270,000 people in just one city in this province. And I look at even in London, Ontario, 40,000 people relatively over the last few years. We just aren't able to get the housing built fast enough. So this plan, this official amendment plan, sets the stage, sets a framework for success in the years and decades ahead.
This will be the last reporter.
Andy Takagi with the Toronto Star. This question's for Minister Sarkaria and for the mayor as well. You talked about a little bit about the history of that Thunder Bay plant in Alstom, and they've done the GO bi-level cars. They also, a few years ago, under Bombardier, did the street cars that the TTC used, and there were some pretty major delays in delivering those street cars. Is there any concern about the delivery of these new Line 2 cars, given the plant's history?
Well, thank you for the question. And I think, with every project, especially in the transit sector, we learn with every single one of those. Whether it's about building transit, whether it's about how trains and the components are built, we continue to build upon that, and we expect better results. I can tell you that we've been working with them as a partner on, for example, the bi-level refurbishments of our GO trains. We work through that. We have a great working relationship. They play an important part on our operations with respect to GO Transit as well. So I'm confident in our ability to work with them. A lot of it comes down to design, the tech, the engineering behind it, and which we will work very, very closely with the partners to ensure that we mitigate against any of those risks and delays. But most importantly, look, we know that there's a need to replace the infrastructure. It can be done right here in Ontario. It can be done by supporting Ontario jobs. So we're very, very happy to be seeing that happening in Thunder Bay and having those jobs supported there. And we'll work very, very closely with those partners to do that.
I have full confidence of our new CEO, Mandeep Lalla. Remember, he came from London, England, that has a huge underground subway. They just opened the Elizabeth line, and it was on time, on budget, working beautifully. And then he was at New York, and he was in charge of the New York subway system. These two subway systems, New York and London, are the biggest in the world. They're one of the biggest, like putting aside Shanghai and Hong Kong, etc. But and he has always been really brilliantly able to get the subway system working well. So he has assured me that he's going to get Alstom to deliver the subway cars online, on budget. On time, on budget. So I have confidence that our new CEO will be able to do so.
This will be the last question.
Last one is for the mayor again. You talked about the RFP process with the TTC. In that untangling process, is there any risk of legal liability to the TTC because they changed the RFP?
No, which is why it took a few months to untangle, because Minister Sarkaria and I talked about it offline quite a while ago, saying that we need to get this going. We need to make sure that it's protecting Ontario workers, creating local jobs for people in Thunder Bay. It's a huge investment. Why would we send this investment elsewhere? But TTC had to make sure it's lawyered, make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so that there's no extra cost, which is why it took a couple of months to figure it out. Now it's done.
This concludes the media conference for today.